Welcome back to the News Hour. Let's take a look at some of the stories making the news. With me to review them here in the studio are presenter and historian Tessa Dunlop and former professional footballer Mickey Ambrose. Guys, welcome to the studio. Let's start with impeachment, the story everybody is talking about right now. Trump almost certainly going to become the third US president to be impeached by the House. In the history books for all the wrong reasons, Tessa.
Yeah, he is actually the first president to be impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors. It's a bit of a charade because the House of Representatives, where Democrats outnumber Republicans, they're going to bang him up to the Senate, where effectively he'll be tried, but it won't go anywhere because 2/3 of the Senate need to rule against him. And of course, the Republicans dominate there. So the whole thing's going to meet a cul-de-sac or a dead end, and he will remain in power. I mean, it's a stain on his character. And it really is a stain in his character. And actually, if we look at the nitty-gritty beyond the sort of American theatre of pale male,
these are live pictures
men
coming from that debate right now.
Sorry, we're not allowed to objectify men today, but what a plain lot. But beyond that theatrical spectacle, the real deal on the ground is Trump is being accused of playing a political football with the Ukraine, which is in an incredibly vulnerable position, being sat on by Russia, bribing, trying to withhold vital military funds.
But, all these allegations we've heard against Trump, he still holds that massive portion of the population that no one's changing their opinions about him.
Yeah. I mean, to me, he's like Teflon, nothing sticks with him, if I can put it that way. And it's sort of divided, isn't it? And whether you loathe him, you don't like him, and so on. And I just think that, as you were saying, it's taken through the mill.
The other two presidents impeached by the House, Bill Clinton and Andrew Johnson, both of them acquitted by the Senate. We probably all know about Clinton's wrongdoing. Yeah. Do you know why Johnson was impeached?
It was 1868. It was something about firing a war
minister. He fired his war secretary, which at the time was against the law. Yeah. It seems pretty tame when compared to...
But we're in crazy times. But the distressing thing is, because we're sort of experiencing insular nationalism, and here too in Britain, and actually all over the world, these kind of charismatic leaders are winning. They have the opium of the masses within their own country for people to no longer care what's happening in the rest of the world. The collateral damage that Trump does, it don't matter to redneck America. They're going to stick by their man. Yeah. And there's something profoundly depressing about that. And of course, we have parallels in Brexit Britain as well.
Let's move on to football. It's not directly football, but it's Arsenal midfielder Mesut Ozil, who's come under fire for condemning China's treatment of Uyghur Muslims. He's been defended. Who's he been defended by?
He's been defended by, obviously, Arsene Wenger, the previous manager, which is quite interesting because I remember when Arsene Wenger was manager, and Arsenal are very strict on the code of conduct and who you speak with. He has to go through certain press things. And I do find it very interesting. Yes, he's got freedom of speech and everything like that. But, he's won the World Cup. He's a high-rated player. And
didn't Arsenal try and distance itself from those comments by Ozil?
They did, but it's quite difficult, isn't it, when to do that? And, of course, it's their brand. These football clubs, at the end of the season, they go out to different countries to try and sell their brand. And the brand's been affected.
But is it that surprising that Arsene Wenger's spoken out? I mean, now he's got some sort of ridiculous... I looked up the title. He's FIFA's Chief of Global Football Development. He's currently washed up in Qatar. He's clearly bored. He really misses his time at Arsenal. Arsenal, meanwhile, know that they rely on Chinese state television, CCTV.
And this is a problem. They've already cancelled one of the coverage of one of the scheduled matches.
It's about money. Beyond the beautiful game, it's always been about dirty money. And Arsene Wenger, of course, is free of that because he's in this cushy little number and he can say what he likes. The bigger issue is the abuse of human rights that goes on in the Western province, Xinjiang in China. And this footballer, I think he's of Turkish descent from Germany, has rightly put out to his millions of Instagram followers. In fact, I'm going to follow him today on Instagram. That's what I'm going to do. He said, this ain't on. And he's right. It's not on.
Do you know Wenger, Mickey?
I've met him a few times at the sort of the PFA Awards.
Is he the kind of person who will rush to defend freedom of speech?
I think he would, but I just find it very odd because if he was still manager, these type of comments by players, and you may have a comment about the world, politics, but once you air your views, and you're with a club like Arsenal or Chelsea or Tottenham,
it is tightly
controlled. So he's got to remember that whatever he says is going to be seen. So, and obviously they pulled the game. They're now trying to do some other things as well.
There's got to be some advantages to being put out to long grass. Come on, you get
right,
to let rip.
Let's move on from football to ballet. Ballet students at the Vienna State Opera have been told to lose weight in a controversial way. Explain.
That's my one. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I did a bit of ballet when I was at. Yeah, they had to.
Give us a
What is the way that these ballet students have been told to lose weight?
Well,
Why is it so
apparently they've been told to start smoking,
Start
to drink coffee and so on, and unfortunately there's been some quite serious allegations about sort of hitting them with rulers and things like that.
This is there's a government report into this. The Vienna State Opera saying young students have been mentally and physically mistreated, and so much of young people's mental health is wrapped up in their self-esteem and their appearance. So this seems particularly cruel.
Yeah, I find it very cruel, and with the smoking, obviously you want to be fit, you got to be agile, you got to. Good cardio. So it is an interesting point that's been put to
and
them.
also, you're a sportsman. Ballet is a discipline. Smoking really goes against any kind of athletic.
For me. No. But the whole kind of the abusive aspect of the regime that these ballet dancers have to go through doesn't surprise me. And if you look at all the great gymnasts throughout history have tended to come from communist regimes. I mean, Nadia Comaneci, we're about to talk about Romania, was possibly the most famous, wasn't she? Nadia Comaneci,
they're
winning
all quite
in the
harsh
70s.
disciplines, and you hear about
get up at 5 o'clock. This is do sort of thing, and they're very disciplined. But
and the people who do them, like gymnastics and ballet, very young.
So there's always a fine line between excellence and it sounds. And abuse, really, because a child doesn't always know what's best for it, so they may go along with it.
Over that line, let's talk about Romania, Tessa, because this month is the 30th anniversary of the Romanian Revolution. Has it moved on from the shadow of Ceausescu?
Well, funnily enough, Romania, I kind of shot my lifetime bullet into Romania. I went there when I was 18, just out of school, to work in one of the orphanages. And I've just been back for the BBC, in fact, to cover the revolution and how much has changed in 30 years. I think Romania tends to be given a really hard time in the press, certainly here in the West. It's the whipping boy of Europe. And it's got this frozen image. We think of Ceausescu, the crazy dictator, the execution, the orphans, gypsies. There's always it's framed in a pejorative way. And actually, I just want to sing it for Romania because they are the fastest growing economy in the EU. They are one of the few countries in that part of the world, I'm comparing them with Poland and Hungary, who are not tacking hard to the nationalist right. If you think of Orban's Hungary, all that ethnic nationalism, they have absolutely embraced the European project. And one of the interesting things is why? Why is Romania exceptional in this way? And I think it's partly because I had a really interesting discussion with a historian out there. Their revolution, unlike the others, was bloody. Over 1,000 people died on the streets.
Yeah,
there was no accountability. Then there were miners bashing up the demonstrators 6 months after the revolution. People very much feeling in the 90s that revolution was hijacked. And don't forget, before the revolution, Ceausescu broke with the Soviets. So it was a nationalist communism. Romania's fed up with nationalism, okay? It has, ever since those dark days in the 90s, it's had a culture of protest. Ever since a bunch of corrupt dudes take over power, and they do frequently, those kids are out on the streets, and it's delivered results. They've got they've just been knocked out of power, but the ruling party's leader is in jail now. There's a real spring in the step.
So do you think it's moving forward? I mean, you said you were there recently.
And it's mainly because there's a massive, the big problem for Romania is brain drain. They've got a massive diaspora, but they come back and they help in these protests. There's a sense in Romania, we ain't going to let you imperil our democracy. So the politicians have got this heritage of corruption and wrongdoing, but they are consistently coming up against. In 2018, they were the biggest demonstrations in Europe, over 500,000 out on the streets.
That's the question. Are there many Romanians coming to the UK?
Huge numbers.
Because you've got Lithuania, you've got all the different...
they
Polish.
are the second biggest foreign nationality in Britain. And we use them as a whipping boy for Brexit. Oh, we don't want immigrants. If you go to Romania today, there are adverts to work in the English NHS.
Okay.
We are stripping them, and there's nobody to work in the hospital.
So you're.
There you go, Sheila.
Do you have something to say about Romania? I don't.
In fact, could you give me an hour?
Let's move on very quickly. Final story: a woman has beaten a man at darts for the first time in the PDC Championship. What do you make of that, Mickey? Does that seem unusual?
Not really. It's one against one.
Actually, you stand and you
for
chuck
me-
something.
well-
How does a woman not be equal to a man in that?
There is a technique to dance. You've got to get it through those little
Is that
barriers.
what the men say?
Treble 20. No, you've got to hit certain
But it's
figures.
accuracy.
It's accuracy.
Surely a woman is as accurate as a man when it comes to
Of
things
course.
like that.
Now,
I mean, there's
you
no
know-
speed or strength involved.
I mean, we've just moved on from needlework to dance. I think, darling, it's a sign of progress.
we should be a natural.
But
Indeed.
I think as well, it's the it's the temperament, the tension. But it's great news. I mean, I just think she was great. She hit the 6/180.
This is Fallon Sherrock. And
Fallon
apparently
Sherrock,
the championship only allowed women to qualify last year.
Yeah,
So there
yeah.
may be many more
Yeah.
women
Yeah.
And isn't
throwing
this the
darts.
one sport you can smoke and drink and do what the heck you like, eh?
She doesn't fit the stereotype of a darts
No,
player,
she
does
doesn't.
I mean, the
not.
good thing I think is, the FA used to sort of ban women from playing football back in the day. The PFA used to actually ban my friend, who was the first female football agent in this country, from going to the PFA awards. And it's great now that governing bodies are embracing women's sport.
Brilliant.
And let's get the girls out there.
Guys, we're going to have to leave it there. We're running out of time.
Thank you,
But thank you
start the sisterhood.
so much